Good evening and watch. As always, we have a lot to... What's that? Breaking news. Forget everything. The week that was has broken 200 likes on Facebook. That's more likes than Tom O'Shawn has friends, and we know how popular he is. All right, let's just get started. Dr. Ben Carson dropped out of the presidential race last week, saying that there's a lot of people who love me. They just don't vote for me. This makes sense because the only people interested in Ben Carson would probably show up 3 days later after the election day asking where to vote. Ray Tomlinson, the inventor of email, died earlier this week. His tombstone read, "Please check your spam folder at isenditfirst.rip." More Latinos are seeking citizenship in order to vote against Donald Trump, which is even more patriotic than an old white guy barbecuing in his yard wearing nothing but the American flag. Verizon reached a settlement with the FCC and has to pay a $1.35 million fine for using what privacy advocates are calling super cookies to track their customers' internet data. But you know, I don't see the problem here. I mean, I love cookies. So if Verizon is using deliciously baked goods to invade my internet privacy, I'm okay with it as long as it's a double chocolate chip. Nothing more. A judge won a $291 million Powerball jackpot this week, and his brother won $7 from the same drawing. Well, I guess there's no question about who their parents' favorite child is now. An Irish Catholic priest was caught snorting cocaine in a room full of Nazi symbols last week. In his defense, the priest said, "That energy is God's energy, an energy deep within you." Philippines 2:13. A museum in LA is creating an exhibit enshrining relics of relationships past. Featured are a replica of the Statue of Liberty from when the French used to like us, Bill Cosby as a funny, loved guy, and coming this 2016, America an irrationally thinking Republican Party. Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton are having relationship problems. After past debates where they acted all nicey-nicey, Bernie Sanders got bitter at his Democratic opponent when she interrupted him when he was making a point.
Where some of your friends destroyed this economy, you know, excuse me.
See, they're basically a grumpy old married couple. If Hillary just left Bill, there'd be no problems. She could be president and Bernie Sanders could be the first lady. The Supreme Court sided with a lesbian mother who was denied adoption rights in Alabama. Speaking out against the suppression, protesters are fighting the suppression of their religious beliefs with the Kim Davis Foundation. Stop the gays from having children. Speaking of the gays, members of the Colombian National Police have been accused of running a gay prostitution ring from 2004 to 2008. The ring was named the Fellowship of the Ring because they loved LARPing out Sam and Frodo fan fiction. We'll be right back for more of the week that was, but before we go for break, I want to leave you with an inspirational quote. Hashtag, 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 hashtag. All positive vibes. Thanks, Kanye.
Good afternoon. This is the week that was, and I'm Boss Khan. I'm here at the Ithaca College campus, where apparently the Republican frontrunners don't get a lot of love. So we're going to ask some important questions about how people really feel about Republicans. Well, good afternoon. I'm here with
Luke Harbor.
Luke Harbor. So I have an interesting question for you. Out of all of the wonderful frontrunners for the Republican candidate, who would you bed, wed, or dead between Donald Trump, Mark Rubio, and Ted Cruz?
I would wed Rubio. I would dead Trump. And whatever the other one is, I would do with Cruz.
There's no one around.
There's no one anywhere.
Why did we do this on a Saturday?
I have no idea.
It's so cold. So cold.
It's freezing.
Oh, hello. Could I ask you a few questions?
Yes.
What's your name?
Tatiana Garvin.
Tatiana. So, are you a Democrat or Republican?
Probably Republican.
Okay, so we're trying to ask the questions that a lot of people don't want to answer.
Okay.
So, between Ted Cruz, Marco Rubio, and Donald Trump, who would you bed, wed, or dead?
Okay, so wed, I'd say Rubio. Bed, Donald Trump. Dead, Ted Cruz, because.
Okay, I mean, Ted Cruz looks like a mouse. We can both agree on that, right?
He's a little mouse, a little hamster.
Okay, I mean, I guess you don't like adorable animals, but so Marco Rubio, baby face. That's why you're getting at it.
Yes, the baby face is the giveaway. Married.
Good. And so Donald Trump, what's the appeal there? Is it just a one-time tryout?
Yep, just testing the waters, trying new things, you know?
Joel, so bed, wed, or dead, Marco Rubio, Ted Cruz, or Donald Trump?
Well, you definitely have to bed Ted Cruz, because I think the guy just needs a break. Marco Rubio, I think you wed. I think the guy has a lot going for him. Just in terms as like a husband, I think he has a lot to offer. And then dead Donald Trump, just because I think he would just make great fertilizer. So.
Well, I hear that Donald Trump is really good at telling people what they want to hear. You don't think that'd be a factor in bed?
No, because I like to govern my own body and what I'd like, and I'd rather dictate on my own terms.
You feel like he'd build a wall around your relationship?
Yeah, and then he'd make me pay for it, which would be weird.
Tonight, we're going to talk about, you guessed it, the man, the myth, the legend, Chris Christie. That's right, the governor of New Jersey, a state you probably couldn't care less about, and the man who recently dropped out of the presidential race. But wait, don't stop watching. I promise this is more interesting than it sounds. And to prove it, we're going to go through this entire segment about Chris Christie without making a single fat joke. So yeah, it's pretty legit. Recently, Christie has been in the news for a surprising endorsement of Donald Trump, and more specifically, the uncomfortable faces he made standing behind Donald Trump at a press conference.
Different places in the Middle East. You look at some of the airports they have. You look at the roadways they have. You look at the transportation.
Yeah, and an endorsement isn't really big news. Politicians showing support for each other is perfectly normal. But Christie's endorsement of Trump is a bit confusing considering the comments he made about him just last August.
Donald's a great guy and a good person, but I just don't think he's suited to be president of the United States.
Why?
I don't think his temperament is suited for that, and I don't think his experience is.
Now, when asked about his totally not bribed change of mind, Christie said this.
Well, because, Greta, I'm no longer in the race. I was the person best suited to be president of the United States. The voters decided otherwise.
You see, that doesn't make any sense, Chris. You said that Trump's temperament and experience weren't suited for the presidency, and then said that it was because you were the best? That's like me saying I am the best host on television, therefore no one else should be on television ever. Okay, this is obviously sucking up to persons who's winning in hopes of being their vice president. But why would Christie be the only one to support Trump when the rest of the GOP has united against him? There has to be more to this. So let's figure out exactly why a person like Christie would all of a sudden become BFFs with a person like Trump. And what better place to look than Christie's home state, the magical land of New Jersey? I know what you're thinking. That boring state is nothing more than a birthplace of John Bon Jovi and Bruce Springsteen. Well, it is much more than that. It's also the birthplace of Fetty Wap. Hey, come my way. Before dropping out of the race, Christie spent that last year or so campaigning to be president. And when a state's governor campaigns to be president, we'd expect them to pay a little bit less attention to their state. But Christie took this to a whole new level. Listen to this comment he made during his campaign in New Hampshire when someone asked him about disaster relief for flooding in New Jersey.
I don't know what you expect me to do. You want me to go down there with a mop?
What do we expect you to do? You're the governor of New Jersey. Pay attention to what's happening there. Oh, and by the way, there is nothing I would like to see more than you mopping up your state. Mostly because of how funny it would look. Just make it even better and wear your softball uniform while you do it. Look at those legs move. The worst part is Christie wasn't even being honest when he made that comment. He claimed that he did all he can do and that only one county had experienced flooding. But just a week later, he asked for federal relief aid for 17 counties, which is, if I do the math correctly, 17 times as many as one. And this attitude is nothing new for Christie. Throughout his whole campaign, Christie has yelled at and berated anybody who has asked him about his job in New Jersey, claiming that they are off-topic questions. This is an election cycle where it is perfectly okay to debate the size of Donald Trump's hands, but that is what you consider off-topic? Questions about the state that you are governor of. It's astonishing that someone could be so ignorant towards their own state. It's almost like he's going out of his way to show the people of New Jersey that he doesn't care anymore. And New Jersey has recognized this. During his campaign, Christie's approval rate fell from 77 to 31%. And recently, 6 newspapers published a joint editorial asking for Christie to resign. So the only people that New Jersey hates more than Chris Christie, well, is the entire cast of Jersey Shore. But a harsh attitude isn't the only thing wrong with Christie. It turns out that he's pretty hypocritical too. We all remember how Christie bullied Marco Rubio in his last debate, but do you remember what he actually said?
They expect you to plow the snow. They expect you to get the schools open. And when the worst natural disaster in your state's history hits you, they expect you to rebuild their state, which is what I've done.
Well, I'm not even sure what this biggest problem with this statement is. First, Christie claims that he has rebuilt his state while the majority of his state was unhappy with his relief efforts. Secondly, he says that the state expects him to go plow when he has already made it clear that he would not be mopping. Presumably would not be using a similar tool like a plow. And third, come on, man, leave Marco alone. He might cry. So Christie's endorsement of Trump might not be that surprising after all. He's already been shown to have no dignity. So sucking up to the winner in hopes of becoming vice president, that doesn't seem out of his reach. And besides, the shared attitude of, if I get a question that I don't like, I will yell at you until you leave me alone, might make Christie and Trump a match made in heaven. So yes, there might actually be something worse than Trump in the White House, and it's Christie there with him. Well, look on the bright side, New Jersey. At least you'll still have Wawa. As long as Christie doesn't buy out all the sandwiches before you get there. I blew it. There's the fat joke. I'll try to contain myself more next time, unlike Chris Christie when it comes to food. Okay, all right. That's all we got. Tune in next week for another episode of The Week That Was.